But hey, Wardy, we're into that first map. In game 1, in the upper right, in the gold, he is the mentioned player from the super team. It's Trigger.
And in the bottom left from Mouse Sports, the biggest of games, HeroMarine.
The biggest of maps. Well, actually, is Data C the biggest map? Feels like it is. It plays like it is, at least.
It feels. The thing is about Data C is it feels. It looks kind of big, and it does feel kind of big, but I don't feel like it's unengageably big, right? Like, it's big, but like there's still ways to take fights and stuff, so that kind of undoes a little bit of the size factor, and that's why we see it a lot of the time, even in matchups where one race doesn't want to be playing like a big map. There are ways to take positions and push into locations on this map, so yeah, it definitely feels quite vast though, right? Especially when you get all the expansions going from like top through to right side to left side and so on, and the entire map gets stretched out. Yeah, then it can get very fun and very interesting. So yeah, interesting one for us to start on is HeroMarine. Oh, that's actually a pretty hefty mistake. An SCV missing off the refinery. That can have a big impact on your builds and your timings. And HeroMarine, who is such a timing-focused player early in the game, that is the sort of thing which actually could backfire heavily if he's thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to deal with this at this sort of time. Well, he's now going to be, what, like 20, 30 gas slower? And again, his builds are just so crisp and so intense that actually, yeah, that's really a big deal for him.
Especially going against a player like Trigger, who he's less of that system timing. He can hit good timing, sure. He can have good builds, but it feels like he is almost chaos incarnate. At least the way that, channeling a little bit of a North American play where he'll go all over the map. You talked about maybe his early game is a little weaker, but once he's able to get in that mid game and start multi-pronging and maybe start to make things a little crazier, that is where his strength tends to be. So if your timing is 10 seconds, 15 seconds slower, that gives maybe Trigger's going to be able to deal with any inefficiencies in his build to get himself a little bit more ready to defend. But for now, really, we're not seeing all that much. It's going to be Stargate opener from Trigger. And against a player like HeroMarine, I tend to like that. He does like his Widowmine drops. It's maybe less Hellion drops, but these things that, hey, you get a couple of Phoenix early, and it really shuts all that down.
Yeah, I think the only concern I really have is that sometimes HeroMarine can be so good at punishing the Stargate openers as well. Getting Cyclone lock-ons, guaranteeing that final shot on a Phoenix or so, taking those out of the sky. We've seen that a lot as of late, so we'll see as HeroMarine sets up. He's going to open a couple of Hellions, and in that regard, obviously, the Stargate opener is fantastic. It definitely is one of the better ways to defend a lot of the initial harassment. It's just if HeroMarine can figure out what's going on, going in towards that kind of Cyclone Viking setup, that's when he can be very scary. But, I mean, on a larger rush distance like Data C, maybe that's less impactful as well, because it will take a while for those kind of basic units to get across the map and to be aggressive and to be scary. So this might be, very much so your best chance to kind of get on to a start like this from Trigger as well, with, being in as little trouble as possible. The Deb goes down, though, and the two Hellions will go across the map, and it's going to be interesting because the initial wall-off was kind of on the Reaper spot, so now he's going to have to try and get a wall-off on the front to properly defend the Hellions.
Yeah, an interesting setup here. Normally you only get one heli and you go into Widowmines behind that one, but I'm assuming because actually the gas was delayed a little bit, he said, yeah, you know what? I need to be able to get enough gas here to get my Widowmines out. I'll build those two Hellions. It means that I have a guaranteed Adept kill is now into the natural. They will go, but with the Phoenix here, one's going to get lifted and knocked down, and of course it takes 3 shots on the Hellion. So really this should not get too much done, but it's getting close. There we go, though. We're going to be able to deal with that one. No damage. Good scout. You see the Phoenix are here, and more importantly, all the energy on the Phoenix are gone, so lifts on these 4 Widowmines are maybe not going to be quite as effective as you might otherwise see. And Ward, you talked about punishes for the Stargate opener. Well, there's an armory about halfway done. These are going to be cloaked Widowmines, and as this is a Phoenix opener, it's going to be a while before we have the detection that Trigger needs.
Yeah, and usually what's great about the Phoenix is that they can just sort of lift up the Widowmines before they get burrowed, so you don't have to deal with them. He's got a bit of energy, but I don't think he'll be able to lift up all of these mines. So this is going to be a little bit trouble. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one gets lifted, so does the second. But 2 Widowmines do get a burrow here, and we get actually not as many probes as I thought. If you targeted down to the bottom right of the mineral line there, I feel like you could have had a big cluster of workers. So maybe a little bit lackluster. As you do see the next Widowmine already setting across the map. Next Widowmine drop already setting across the map. And of course, when you invest into that armor, you're going to commit into this for a while. And there's even another medevac on the way, so very committed here out of HeroMarine. Really believing he can get damage done in this moment.
Trigger's got a good idea of where the timing is. It's not perfect, but it's going to be good enough. And we will, of course, need to see that. Oh, okay, there was range. Another worker will go down. But As the observer pops out, that should be able to deal with that one. But the question now is whether Trigger is ready in the natural. Probes are actually getting pulled here. You got to be so careful, but he's going to get the lips on all of them. Well done, Trigger. He still might be beating hard. That was just a little bit scary.
That's always such a scary situation, right? But obviously you have to hit every lift. I got really worried because he lifted like the high HP ones first. I was like, no, are you still thinking you're going to kill the other one? But he did get every single one lifted, which obviously helps a lot. And that is going to be a defense from Trigger. So he's going to hold on here. I mean, HeroMarine's macro behind this has still been pretty good. You know, you look at him at only a 4-worker deficit, really isn't that bad. Extra barracks coming online, stim pack coming through. And Trigger just now getting his third online as well. So, yeah, the economy of Trigger maybe isn't as far ahead as he might think. HeroMarine's third CC is really well timed. You know, honestly, I actually kind of like it. Just looking at it from HeroMarine, he's just been very good on the macro behind this harassment-focused opener.
What we got to point out here, Wardy, as well as the fact that, yes, Trigger, he handled that pretty well. He only lost 5 probes to 8 Widow Mines, 2 Medevacs. But the mining in his main was just denied for a solid 30 seconds while he was dealing with the drop in the natural. He just did not have enough APM, did not have enough attention to deal with the Widow Mines in the main as well. Because, hey, Cloak, he only could have the Observer in one spot. So, yeah, he didn't take a lot of actual economic damage in terms of losing probes, but still, that lost mining time is significant as another drop finding its way in. And then, whoa, the Phoenix are not where they need to be. Trigger's not where his vision needs to be here. 4 workers go down, make it 15, and that's exactly what you're looking for.
The consistency of these Widow Mine drops finally hurts Trigger. You'll have to get an obs over here, clean this up, because you can't lose more than the 17 that have gone down already. That is already painful. And it took a while for HeroMarine to find the damage. It took a while for him to hit the mines he was really looking for. And now he's had that one time. And like I say, it was already feeling kind of okay-ish for kind of HeroMarine in the work count. Plus, he's got that third CC coming online already. And these are going to fire again. Oh my goodness, though. I'm going to get one more shot up on the Phoenix as well. Just bring those low for a little bit. 7 more probes. It just hurts, man. Like, this is horrible for Trigger all of a sudden. Like, this game just swung completely into HeroMarine's favor. Yeah, I mean, next time HeroMarine gets on the map, probably with 1-1 combat shields, he's probably going to be feeling pretty good about just kind of taking a fight or so. And if not that, then he's already got a second starport on the way up. So he's already thinking about getting a good amount of Vikings online and dealing with this Phoenix Colossi play from Trigger.
Well, you know, Wardy, a wise man once said, "One behind Dark Shrine," but that's not what Trigger's going for. Instead, it's one behind go to Stargate 3 base carrier. Is apparently the thing. So Trigger, he's got that second Stargate on the way. He's got Fleet Beacon as well as, hey, nice snipe down. Another medevac will fall, and there are very few medevacs on there are actually no medevacs on the field right now. So this army of HeroMarine, it's big, it's scary, it has stim, it has combat shields. 1-1 is going to be done soon. There will be no healing for it. And as Colossus joined the fray, it is as marine heavy as this army well, tanks don't even really matter all that much considering you can just lift them. Here, Trigger is going to be at least able to be somewhat defensive, but it's not going to be carriers. After all, Wardy, Tempest really early in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Tempest just so fast. I saw the Fleet Beacon going down. I was like, well, maybe he feels like he's behind. Maybe he's going to just try and start massing carriers and just hope he can defend, right? But Tempests? I really don't know how I feel about the Tempest because, well, they're just not great. Like, you build Tempest against Liberators, right? It's like, okay, brilliant. You know, you can shoot down the Libs from afar. That makes sense. In this situation, I just cannot really fathom why he feels Tempest are the go-to over just like a second Robo. Build 2 disruptors at once. Now he starts up Carrier. Yeah, I'm genuinely curious because I just don't think, I mean, especially cutting a 2 Tempest, it feels like they're going to achieve almost nothing in these fights. I'm kind of stumped on the Tempest choice.
It's 5 Tempests that one-shot a Viking or a medevac,
yeah.
right? Yeah, so I can see going there. You say, okay, well, I'm just going to, knock down everything you have in the sky, and then, well, good luck. I'm going to slow your push down. But 2 does not make, I'm with you there, Wardy. 2 does not make a ton of sense. Now, Nina has actually been playing some interesting Tempest styles against Terran as of late. And we do know that Trigger and Nina are very good friends. In fact, again, Trigger will be boot camping with her leading into DreamHack Atlanta. But this carrier thing is not what the style that Nina does play. It's something that is straight out of Estrella, for example, one of these North American players that says, yeah, I'll just go into carriers. They're great. It's this fantastic late game setup. And Trigger, for now, these 4 bases are rather hard to assault. It's kind of a platform map, and HeroMarine really not showing much interest just yet. So if all the stack defense gets up, we get ourselves up to maybe 6 carriers. hey, there is a world where Trigger will be able to make this hold happen, but the next couple minutes, Wardy, are where it gets really scary for our young Canadian Protoss.
Yeah, I could get the Tempest if you just kept building Tempest. I could get the carries if you build carries straight away. It was just the Tempest into carries. Now he's going to go back into Tempest. I just assume he's like, I need something ASAP in case he pushes now. And then he's like, okay, I think I actually do have a chance to get to carries, which he did. He got to 3. Now he's going back into Tempest. Maybe it was just like a safety thing. It's what he felt safest with. So he engaged straight in. This Disruptor does nothing at all apart from donate itself. And that's what I really think I would have preferred to see. Just a few more Disruptors that really could have helped to hold this army off on the ground. As right now, this is no upgrades on the ground army. It's obviously very much so in the skies. But the carrier's out of Interceptors, and that's generally where a Terran player can do pretty well. For now, we back it up. Oh, Disruptor shot, but HeroMarine is too far away. Yeah, I mean, for HeroMarine, it's just about breaking through this air army, and I honestly just believe he can do so. His units on the ground are just going to be that good. The carriers are basically null in this situation, and yeah, we rush on forward, and let's see what Trigger can do to defend, as the supply of HeroMarine is dropping down quite a bit. It's just those carriers now going to be under 5. We lose 1, we lose a Tempest. Again, the Marines are just so good when there's nothing to stop them getting on top, which there's like 1 Disruptor and a Colossus.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with that lack of +1 ground, the Colossus just not doing what it needs. You talked about wanting more Disruptors. I buy that. I see that. It makes sense, especially when you don't have ground upgrades. But I feel like Colossus, same thing with, because all that matters here is knocking, well, I guess the Vikings do, but really it's just knocking these Marines down. That then allows the carriers to fight. You don't have to worry about Interceptors, while Marines are so good at that one. Another tank will follow, and we will see the Phoenix running forward as the HeroMarine trying to break the 3rd base down. He got the 4th. Feels like the 3rd base might be a little bit more difficult for right now. And you talked about army supply. It's equalized, actually, Wardy. We're at 83 to 83, and actually, well, maybe a little bit different now. +2 attack on the way from Trigger as he looks to situate himself on that 4th base. Once again, a little bit different spot this time. And you always got to be worried as we see this style start to play out, whether the Terran is going to be able to continue to trade well and tech themselves into a position that they need to be in. Because this army, if Trigger gets himself up into +2, gets himself up to 6-7 carriers, it is something that starts to trade extremely cost effectively. It's so hard for the Terran to fight.
I just feel as though HeroMarine could just, I think he's starting to do it now. He's dropping to the top. I was going to say, if HeroMarine just starts dropping around, as long as his drops don't get shot down by the Tempest on the way in, right? I feel like he could do very well in that situation, because this is not an army at all for Trigger that's designed to be split up and fight in multiple places. So yeah, I love the drop. It's exactly what I was going to suggest. He does move up here with a ton of units. He's going to recancel the 4th base. He's going to force this group of units back, and as they come up to respond to this, I'm sure the army on the bottom side is going to move out, push the right-hand side, try and take down some of the bases that are being established over there. And again, just try and find that fight where this army is a little bit out of position. This is the replacement 4th that Trigger built on the picture-in-picture. We're going to jump over there now on the big screen, and that's just going to go down instantly. So HeroMarine really is just collapsing down these bases, and right now he might collapse onto this army from 2 sides. He hits an EMP already. The Disruptor is low HP, but still survives. Disruptor's shot does go off. Wow, okay. I mean, that was not a great fight from HeroMarine. I thought he was going to come in from the top at the same time, but he didn't. So that felt a little a little bit carefree. More so than I would have liked.
Yeah, we are starting to see the problem of engaging into this army from Trigger. Yes, you're able to multi-prong all you want. Knocking 2 bases down was fantastic for HeroMarine, and make no bones about it, he is in a fantastic position in this game, as again, the 4th base is going to get canceled, but fighting to this army all clumped together when you only got a little bit of your own does not really work out all that well. That being said, a Tempest falls, a couple more Phoenix do fall, but we are also seeing the problems with taking that right side base that Trigger wanted to take. You can take the north side, the base that Trigger is trying to get right now, and it's fairly defensible. You're defending roughly the same area with your 3rd and your 4th. But if you start trying to take that 3 o'clock base, that's where things start to get complicated. And, well, that just makes it harder and harder for Trigger to play this game as the game does go on. But he is starting to max out. He does have that +2. He's adding in more Colossus. He's got a decent Disruptor count. What's he at? It is, it's only 2 Disruptors, actually, but the addition of the Colossus are going to be nice. Once again, this 4th base will be canceled. Trigger just not quite far enough out on the map to prevent these Marauders and Marines from running forward. And HeroMarine, he's on 5 bases. He has everything he could possibly want. 6 Vikings at a time, +2 air. This army that he builds, he's mining 4,000 minerals a minute.
Yeah. I mean, there's just, in theory, it's very unlikely that Trigger turns this around. Obviously, there is a world where he gets like that one good fight, right? And that one fight develops into HeroMarine just can't quite rebuild in time. HeroMarine's got a lot of SCVs, but then he doesn't quite have enough army supply, and then Trigger just gets on top of him and just keeps it going, right? Keeps the momentum against him. I can see the world where that is the case, but it just feels kind of tough to imagine, right? When you consider how much HeroMarine has. We know how experienced HeroMarine is as well, so it's not like he's someone we expect just to be kind of making a mistake to let Trigger back in like that either. So yeah, when it comes down to all of that, this really does start to feel as though Trigger is in a ton of trouble. And he's got to find a way to take some good engagements. The EMPs are going to hit every time, it seems like, so they're already starting these fights down the map with no shields. HeroMarine, well, having a little bit of issue right now as the interceptor count stays strong. Let's see if Trigger's push can get it done.
You're talking about looking for one big fight. Trigger's looking for that right now. We're only looking at, well, actually, for now, 21 Vikings on the map is again. HeroMarine has been able to rebuild that one, building so many Vikings at a time, but this army from Trigger is terrifying. It's one of those things where you have, as HeroMarine, you have to take the fight or not. You can't kind of poke things nearly as easily. Every time the Vikings run forward, so many of them will go down here. They're trying to take that fight, but only 10 Vikings remain. Still 7 Tempest, still 6 carries, but the interceptor count has been reset, and that is where you chase forward as HeroMarine here, even still. The Tempest in the sky doing a great job. Disruptors just zoning out the army of HeroMarine as well as they can. And HeroMarine really struggling to take this fight. He loses a couple orbitals. It's not the big fight that Trigger won. It's not the game-defining fight that Trigger wanted. But now he's at least able to just start finding some level of damage in the game. He has, of course, traded about 4,000 resources better. But the question really is he going to be able to find himself in a spot where he actually breaks the base and starts to actually knock down the mining potential of HeroMarine in this game?
I'm just gonna say no. I just don't think
Fair.
so, right? I mean, like, he's just about getting back onto his 4th base. HeroMarine still has a lot of bases reestablished. He's instantly built back up. I feel like this was as scary as it gets for Trigger's army, and HeroMarine handled it pretty well. And now he's gonna have even more Vikings ready to go. He was rebuilding 10 at a time at one point, so let's see right now. I mean, Disruptor Shot's good for a lot of goes. That was not the fight initiation that HeroMarine's looking for. Obviously, that really sets him back a little bit. That's what Trigger needs, right? If you can get a big clump of ghosts like that, just start this fight off on a good kind of side. Yeah, that's the kind of fight that he does want. That's the sort of fight that will make me believe a little bit for Trigger. Without that, I still feel like HeroMarine's going to be a bit too good. I actually like the reinvestment into a few Marines here. Don't spend all of your gas. A few Marines can still be very nice to shave off those interceptors during the battle. And of course, when it comes to chasing down that air army, if there's just Marines left, there's no disruptors, the Marines getting underneath will shred the Tempest carrier force as well. So a lot to be watching for here as we get into the later stages still.
Well, we got Yamato on the way as well. HeroMarine getting ready for every eventuality. He, of course, also got Liberator range, which, as there are no Liberators on the field, normally that's something you want to get scrounged, but they do a good job in zoning out the Disruptors right now, as it looks like there is oh no, never mind, not harassment. We do have HeroMarine just killing off some of his own SCVs. He says, you know what, I'm sitting here, I'm on 9 orbitals, I have as many mules as I could want. I really only need enough SCVs for gas to build more structures. There we go. 4 battle cruisers on the way, but hey, look, Wardy, that is 32 supplies sitting in production right now that is not really useful in this fight. So if there's an opportunity for Trigger, it may just be right now. Good disruptive shots to start. We're looking at 17 Vikings remain, but they're starting to shell away at all of these carriers. The positioning really not all that great for Trigger. Yeah, the Tempests are doing what they can, but as the carriers fall, really not much to deal with the stuff on the ground. The army of HeroMarine now trying to get on top of things. The Vikings ascendant in this game. There was one opportunity for Trigger to try to make something happen as the battle cruisers stuck in production, but Trigger carriers just a little bit too far forward, and this army from Trigger now, but look at resources lost. It's a lot closer. It's 5K instead of, I think, the 7 or 8 it was previously.
Yeah, no, this was exactly what you didn't want to have happen for Trigger. The Marines and the Ghosts got to sit underneath the Tempest afterward as well and just knock those down for a little while. The Marauders, a couple of them split ahead and just finished off the Disruptors too, so that count has been reset completely. These were all the things that Trigger really did not want to have happening, so yeah, unfortunately, it's looking pretty rough again for Trigger. HeroMarine has once again taken a pretty good fight and is able to kind of set up. It did look scary though for a little while as well, right? Because there was a few moments there where I was like, actually, there is a moment where HeroMarine was dropping a lot of supply, where he might have been in a lot of trouble. And yeah, obviously HeroMarine just continued to mine the entire map, taking both corner bases. Trying a bit worse, but as he takes both corner bases, he really, that doesn't matter anymore. So, yeah, looking pretty good here for HeroMarine still. And Trigger put up a good fight at least. I do feel like HeroMarine let him a lot more back into this game than he probably initially planned to.
Yeah, remember, this is a game where Trigger lost, I think, 32 probes, something like that, off of the Widowmine drops, or the second level of Widowmine drops early on. So the fact that he's been able to come into this game at all is extremely impressive. And part of it is, of course, the map. It's really hard to push into the core 4, or at least the core 3 for HeroMarine at the moment. The depths have been warped in. I don't know, I don't know whether these were from earlier, whether he warped in just to deal with this one, but he will shut down the mining just a little bit. As now, of course, we're at 3-1 in the air, but still nothing on the ground. So these adepts really not going to be able to do all that much. But now Trigger knows that this upper left base has been taken. He understands that he does need to do something about that. He cannot just kind of sit there and allow HeroMarine to effectively go up 2 bases on him over the course of this game, just suck up so much more money. But I'm not sure what he can do. We're sitting on 8 battle. We're going up to 11 battle cruisers. That's a lot of Yamatos.
HeroMarine's just looking for that one massive fight with all of these BCs teleporting in. I mean, once they teleport in on top of this Protoss army, you pretty much just got to recall out. So if HeroMarine can ever force a recall and then get a teleport in, then he's going to be in very good shape for sure. This is just rough though, like you say about the corner bases. The thing with the corner bases is it's not just the corner base. The base in the low ground, a bit south of this one we see here, that one basically feels like you can take that as well if you have the corners. So there's a lot in play. I like this with the BC. Just going to go across, harass a bit. They do get found immediately though. Good job by Trigger. And that means that HeroMarine should teleport out ASAP. Save these BCs. He's actually going to at least turn around and get the Yamatos off though. That will cost him 1 battle cruiser at least. And we do teleport the rest away. And just shave some HP off beyond the shields of those carriers.
And what would be nice to see if we could get the Shopify battle report get thrown up there. I think it's 1 BC for 1 carrier, which is pretty fine. As HeroMarine now, nukes on the way as well. I guess he actually is dropping a nuke too, but in this late game, turtled out Deathball versus Deathball setup, his Disruptor is going to try to deal with this one. He's got that. No, he does not. He does not have the town or the distance. Nuke does land, but only gets 2 probes.
Yeah, he actually just went a little bit too far with the Disruptor shot, so a little bit of a misplay there, as we do have the nuke landing. Obviously just clears out some stack defense, pokes away at this base. Yeah, we're bringing SCVs up to the army. Looks like they are on the way to repair something rather than being sacrificed in full. Obviously both players have transitioned down to only 56 workers each here, so both of them playing just a smaller army, recognizing, hey, look, smaller work count so they can have a larger army, recognizing that is going to be important in these large fights. A lot to fit into your army compositions. You just can't do that with 80 workers.
No, not really. Nuke's getting dropped in 3 places at once here, and the nuke on top of this. All right, this is going to be really scary here. Trigger, though, seems to be aware of that. Nuke number 1 lands, gets a couple probes. We're going to see nuke number 2 land, knock down a bunch of static defense, but luckily, no damage on the army, at least short of the EMPs that have already happened. We're going to see 1 BC go down, but here we go. This is the fight. This is what HeroMarine is looking for. The stack defense is down. It's going to be a recall. 1 carrier falls, and looks like that actually will be it, but the base is down as well. That could have been so much worse for Trigger, but even still, that army really gets knocked down. He's looking at 130 supply to 188. His economy in shambles now, and in a game where he is just not mining gas. HeroMarine almost 2,000. He's almost 2,000 gas a minute. He hasn't even taken the rich gas bases. That is, you never see a Terran doing that.
Yeah, this fight was really smart because obviously you want to get rid of this base, and by jumping on top of the carriers, like I said before, your pretty much only response to that as the Protoss player is to recall away. So you know you're not going to recall to that base. It basically means that base is just sacrificed the moment those BCs get that jump. And so that was why it was really smart for HeroMarine. He knew what the response from Trigger would be, and it guaranteed him to get in the base kills. Now he's actually going to get a little flanking on this, and he is just going to engage on through. The carriers exposed straight away. EMPs do go down. As HeroMarine dropping some Yamatos as well. The Disruptor count is gone, and Trigger is gone here in game number 1. 25 minutes, though, for a game that kind of looked over a lot earlier due to the way the game was going. I mean, don't forget, we eventually had that Widowmine drop land for like 17 probes. And with those 17 probes going down, I was almost certain. I was like, okay, right, HeroMarine is 100% going to be looking good now, right? This game ends sooner rather than later. Maybe a defensive setup, sure, but HeroMarine can break that. HeroMarine kind of chose to play a bit of a slower game. And then Trigger definitely got himself back in. A couple of Tempests into carriers actually worked out quite nicely. It was really cool for Trigger to be able to fight back because Gabe is usually, when he does that much damage, the game doesn't last more than 5 minutes afterward.
No, it really doesn't. We also got to point out that was on Europe. That was HeroMarine's server. So if Trigger's able to turtle out that hard, do that well from how problematic that setup was early, who knows? maybe on Moondance, maybe on the North American server, maybe that's going to be something that is going to allow Trigger to maybe take a map. And as much as I have been following Trigger's rise, I want him to do well. I think taking a map against HeroMarine in and of itself is going to be a victory for Trigger, just because how good HeroMarine has looked, especially in these international events. I mean, yeah, Trigger has actually taken one map off of HeroMarine in the 3 times that they've played, but that was an EPT Cup. Right? These are very different stakes, Wardy.
Yeah, no, Gabe doesn't mess up in these sort of situations as well a lot of the time, right? Like he's very good at playing these big tournaments, holding his nerves in, etc. So yeah, no, it's gonna be. I feel like it's almost tough for Trigger to go into this game number 2 now. I feel like as well that game 1 here Marine's a bit like, huh, took me so long to kill him. I feel like in game number 2 he might just step it up a little bit as well and be like, right, well, not a second time, right? I'm not gonna let this happen twice in a row. This is why I actually just kill you this time. My early game is gonna be on point. Remember Gabe kind of forgot his gas a little bit last game, so that was kind of a factor early too. We don't know how much that really impacted his choice of build or how the game went. So yeah. Interested to see, obviously, the map as well will have something to
Hmm.
play on this too, because the second map, in theory, should pretty much always be smaller than Data C. And it is going to be Moondance, right? So, in that regard, it's going to be kind of tough to play as Trigger as well, because Heron can come across the map quickly. He can apply pressure. He can take an in base, which benefits the Terran more than the Protoss typically, just because of the gas count being missing for the Protoss in that backwards base.
And he can, and we're gonna have to see if Trigger can take advantage of that one. But for now, in the upper left, in the purple, he's up 1 off a marathon first game from Mouse Esports. It's HeroMarine.
In the bottom right-hand side, he is going to be one of our North American Protoss players that we get to see today. And he make this to a game 3. It is Trigger.
Now, Wardy, we talked about this pocket-based scenario, and it actually looks like it's not going to be relevant in this game. No 12 pylon from Trigger. But he played a match against Bjorn in an EPT Cup recently, where he actually took the first game. He took Moondance because he had proxy Void Rays are supposed to be dead, right? But he proxied on the goal. He proxied on the Procket third. It was it's Void Rays immediately into the mineral line. It was dirty as hell. But it looks like that's not what we're going to see in this game, as we look to see maybe Trigger has something. But HeroMarine also maybe changing things up a little bit. Double gas early.
Yeah. I like it, right? Just gives you a good aggressive opening. It means you can be even more aggressive earlier in the game. It lets you take control, and just in case Trigger's like, game down, everything on the line, let's just go all out and like proxy or something, or be aggressive myself. HeroMarine's build really just negates that almost immediately.
Yeah, it really does. So Reaper opening coming out of HeroMarine for the moment. Actually, did Trigger see the second gas? No, he didn't. He really just kind of stuck on the edge of things right now. But, well, behind this, we're going to have to see what exactly HeroMarine... I mean, I got to assume there's just going to be Widowmine drops again, right? I mean, that is something that HeroMarine loves to do, and it eventually got tremendous damage in that first game.
Yeah, I would imagine it looks a bit different. Obviously, probably no reactor on a factor or anything, so just 2 Widow Mines, 3 Widow Mines initially. Move into the follow-up from there, which could be Cyclone Viking, something along those lines. You could maybe go Liberate if you'd like to. That's the sort of ride I see HeroMarine taking this game. This will be with an expansion at some point as well. Would be very shocked if he stayed on one base. I know that's something he's done now and again against some Korean Protosses. I believe he did at Katowice, where he, fully committed to like one base, 1-1-1. But it's just not really what I think he's going to bring out in a game like this. And he does indeed put his expansion down. It will be in base, of course, now in the main. So he will take a little while to take the natural properly. And he does lose the reburst. So that's kind of a big deal because he's not been able to identify what tech tree Trigger wants to go down.
Well, in fairness, that's because Trigger has not identified what tech tree he wants to go down. But there we go. It's going to be Twilight Opener, Blink Opener coming out from Trigger in this game as he's getting himself set for a rather quick third base. That is, I mean, this looks like it might time out for maybe a PVZ third, but you tend to be a little bit slower against Terrans. Certainly Terrans as aggressive as HeroMarine can want to be, but also I guess this could just be for drop defense to make sure you have a little bit earlier vision on that one. But Hellion on the other side of the map now. HeroMarine he's got the free scout effectively. It's like, well, I got some build time. I might not enough gas just yet. I'll build some Hellions and go from there. But really not that much of a scout coming out from HeroMarine early on. And behind this Trigger. second gateway. Looks like it's going to be a 2-gate expand, 2-gate blink expand coming from the young Canadian Protoss. Or not. Third gate.
Yeah, I mean, he put the robot down before he started blink or anything, so that generally suggests aggression, and the longer this goes, the more this almost feels like we're going to put a Dark Shrine down. He doesn't start blinking now, Chrono Boost. I mean, that blink just seems very late. I mean, he had a lot more gas than he needed to start it, so I'm not sure what happened there. We'll see how it goes. This is, again, just going to be 3-gate robo, right? So let's get this going and see what happens.
Well, he is, of course, getting the Warp Prism. You talked about early aggression. So, you know, half the time you go and you get that Robo just for observers and you get yourself set up on the third base. But getting that Warp Prism does signal significant amounts of aggression. As there we go, Marines and a Widowmine finding their way into the main base right now. Widowmine just walling off any potential to find your way on the high ground. And that shot will get dodged. One Stalker falls. Marines getting on top of a lot of these probes. They're pulled far and far away from the mineral line. 5 workers fall. Blink only about halfway done. So no real shutdown potential available for Trigger right now. Bit of an interesting opening coming in from HeroMarine. You don't really see that. It actually, it's the same opener that Mar used against Ragnarok in that last series, except this time it actually gets a little bit more damage. As now Trigger forced to keep a couple Stalkers back at home, taking a little bit of the strength away from that opening from the 3 gates blink timing he's going to look for.
Yeah, no, it definitely does depower it a little bit. That is the power of kind of getting this early medevac out and getting in. I like it a lot, you know, just get some damage done and get out. Medevac's still there as a threat, and if nothing else, going to keep a couple Stalkers here. That's good, because less Stalkers to be aggressive at home. And we do have the Viking coming out to help zone a Prism. A tank is on the way too. In general, this does feel nice for HeroMarine. Let's see how the defense goes. In fact, he's attacking, so his Stalkers will get some damage here for sure. But then he's going to be able to just walk across the map and get in position, and he's got a lip in position too. Trigger's in a lot of trouble, because for all these Stalkers are going to get done, HeroMarine is basically going to set up into a position that will never be broken on the other side of the map. And like I say, there's just nothing to stop him getting there, which is a major issue.
Oh, he missed the blink as well. 2 Stalkers stuck on the high ground. They will go down. So Trigger running desperately home with, I think, only 1 Stalker on the map right now. Bunker on the way. Liberator not dealt with earlier. And because blink was so delayed, we're not going to have charge. We're not going to have anything that actually deals with pushes like this. So yeah, sure. Trigger, he has his third base on the way as the Stalkers. They just died. Double tank shots. Enough to make that happen. Is this drop? It's not going to be. Medevac is not going to go down. These Stalkers, though, it's just not a lot here from Trigger. He finds himself down about 30 supply, looking to maybe knock down reinforcements, knocking that Viking at the very least, but still eating more tank shots, looking for the home. And there's another warp in, but it's just not enough Stalkers here. Now we're going to see the Medevac. Well, the Warp Prism is barely going to stay alive, and actually Stalkers look like they will be able to deal with that one. There we go. Warp Prism going down. HeroMarine moving backwards. The Stalkers continue to fall. This is just, Trigger was not ready for this. He was delayed in his tech just enough. The natural is dead. Recall onto the third base that HeroMarine knows about. Now there's no recall on the main. Trigger, I don't know what he's supposed to do here anymore.
No, I honestly think this game ended when he was attacking into the main base and he didn't know that HeroMarine was moving onto the map, right? Like, you just cannot let this army walk across the map for free, and just didn't have the information to deal with it. Trigger gets eliminated from the TSL.